1, 2, 3. All right. Good afternoon, morning, good evening, wherever you are. If you're listening to me from Nigeria, I'm going to be talking to someone who has made significant impact in the area of software. We were in school together, and one of the things I remember is how he went into Visual Basic in year 2. And today he's doing much bigger things. And today I'm going to be talking to Joseph Onyema. We used to know him at Amaobi, so that's the name I know him by. It's now his middle name, Amaobi Onyema. So he is a pioneer. He is set out to start up Amoseries, and one of the key things they do is to deliver a HRMS system which is homegrown. It's powerful, and together today we're going to talk to him about how he got to that point and what they are doing for small business owners currently. So let me give the floor to Mr. Joseph Amaobi Onyema to talk about himself a little, tell us a little about his business journey as we start the interview today. Please, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. So morning, afternoon, and evening, just the way you just get up. First of all, I would like to say thank you for having me. So a bit about myself. Today, I manage an investment bank here in Nigeria, one of the top investment banks, having about 5-6 companies within the group. But prior to that, all the way back to the beginning, like Kenneth said, we schooled together. And programming was one of those things that back in the days, we played around a bit. And so when I was done with school and I started my career, I started up around IT hardware. And then slowly I delved into a bit of software. For most of the software bit, what had happened was I worked in organizations where it was basically supposed to be hardware, but they had a few things that they needed to do, and that I felt if I either designed a website or I designed a software to try to power it, it would make things a bit more easier. So for most of my career life, I wasn't really in a job role where I was particularly a software person. It was just something I did additionally in every business I worked in. And one of the things I then realized was when I was leaving any business, I was leaving a software behind that at some point they called me back to say, this stuff is not working as well as we want it to. We want 1 or 2 new features added to it. And I had to just go back, I'll get it done for you. And so I had to put that in. In fact, it's so interesting. I had an interview once, and the interviewer asked me, how come everywhere you leave a software behind? Don't you think? And I said, well, wherever I get into, I'll get something else designed. That's not an issue. And basically that's been the way it's been for me, even where I am today. It's something new at every point in time. So I did IT from infrastructure. I moved into an IT firm itself where I serviced the banks. I was between banks, between FMCGs and a bit of telcos, supporting all of those. And then 5 years into that, I came back into the financial services sector, where I ran one of the fastest growing financial house, small but fast. I did that for about 2 years and 8 months, 3 years, thereabout. And then I got into a much larger house doing exactly the same thing, but a much bigger space, a much bigger player in the industry. And so that's where I am today. So that's my journey so far. Where I am.
Well, I really picked something quite interesting from what you said about the fact that your strong point is software, but you got roles that were predominantly hardware, but you are still able to innovate around your strong point, being able to sell your strong point. And this has become, I believe that this has become your reference points, even as you launched your own company. Is that right?
True. And I would say even where I am today, it's basically what has started leading the way. I'll give a simple instance. When I came in here, one of the things they said was, you did great where you are, because they had hunted me in here. Same for all my jobs except one. Of all four places I've worked in, I was headhunted for all of them. So I basically don't apply.
Wow.
But one of the things they said was, if you can do what you've done there. And when I came in here, I noticed from one of the employees, he seemed to have some software knowledge. And he said, oh, I can write codes.
Yeah.
I said, oh, let's write something really fast. So 2 weeks before I came in, 2 weeks before I resumed, we wrote an SMS platform to try to communicate to customers, right? Today, that platform, it started up as an SMS platform. Today, it's a middleware that controls 4 business backends into it, has APIs for third-party partnerships into it, and I would say has automated 70% of the tasks we have here, so much that we've set up new branches without employing any staff in Ibadan. We've set up branches in Ibadan, we've set up branches in Kano by just deploying employees from here, there, because their jobs have been automated here, and we didn't need that much workforce here anymore. So I might have been in hardware for quite a lot, networking, a bit of database backends. I would say software has been something I've always done, but I've never had a core software role in my entire career. No.
Amazing. And you said quite interesting how you've developed an SMS gateway or an SMS engine into a whole middleware that you have APIs exposed etc. And I think that what it means to me as a technical person is that your software development practice is standard. Maybe you use modular, you build software in a modular fashion, or use microservices or service-oriented architecture. That way, it's microservices. Beautiful. That way, it's easy to plug in new stuff. It's amazing. I mean, you're really done. Yeah, great, amazing. And young people have a lot to learn with that. Anyway, these days they are getting into doing microservices because that's what's the in thing now. But a lot of people, when they build software, it's so hard coded, so rigid that it's difficult to do what you've just described. So let's dive into your business journey, so to speak. Now, I happen to know that you went to Lagos Business School, Tony Elumelu Foundation, based on a little bit of research. So you have this foundation in software development. So how did you now navigate into entrepreneurship? And these exposures, these trainings, did they help you? How much, to what extent did they help you launch out as a business owner?
Okay, so I would say, first and foremost, you would know him, Nnameka Obiora. I think sometime when I started my career, I transitioned to the IT firm. He came up and said, Amobi, I need something to manage my employees. He had just assumed a CEO role in his dad's company. And he said he needed to manage his employees. So I said, okay, you know what? I'll work up something for you. Let me see what I can cook up. So I went about designing an employee management solution just to manage employees. That was basically what I was doing.
Yeah.
Sometime around that year also, my office then came and said, oh, we need something to manage payrolls. And I'm like, oh, they wanted to buy a payroll system. And I said, guess what? I have this software, I'm going to throw payrolls into it. And so I threw payrolls into it, you know.
Wow.
And the whole idea of selling was not in my head at that time. I just wanted to help a friend get something going and then help my organization get something going. But in between that, I noticed the organization, we were having quite a bit of financial challenges. And I had this CIO who was an Indian, and he saw something I had done once. I said, wow, this looks good. He wanted something, a software, I think that was ClickView at the time. He wanted to build dashboard. And I told him I have something locally that I developed that can build this dashboard. It will connect to MySQL, it will connect to SQL Server, it will connect to DBase 2, and then it will connect to Oracle. And it could bring all of the data into a single dashboard. And he said, okay, let him see. So I got to show him. He saw it and said, you know, we could sell this stuff. And I said, no, this is just the reporting engine, right? It's just the dashboard, the reporting engine. It's not the main solution. The main solution is a HR solution. He said, no, let's just sell this reporting engine. And so he was the first person that actually took me out to a client site then, and he actually went selling. And after that, we sold a copy and then came back and he said, okay, we've done this. We have to look at the other bits. But sometime in between, he left the organization. So my new manager said, guy, let's just look at this thing and see if we could sell it. So I said, okay, the HR solution, I built a number of things inside. We had an agreement. This is my software. I didn't build it while I was here. But let's play something around. Let's see if we could sell it. I thought we would sell to a company with 20, 30 employees. So the first company we deployed for was Group. We had 12,500 employees already. So immediately I realized this is
mounted the pressure on your software.
Bigger than what I thought, right? 3 months later, we had what's the name? Elalan. We had another 2,000 employees thereabout added, and then I knew that okay, this was a big thing. But for us, coming to your question, we had a customer who sent a mail in saying they wanted to build a HR solution. And it was from his signature, I saw the Tony Elumelu Foundation, right? So I applied for the Tony Elumelu Foundation. I'm saying, okay, I had this stuff I was building and I wanted to see if I could get it. So lucky for me, I did get it in 2016. And need I say, what it brought to me was beyond what I had thought. So the Tony Elumelu Foundation more or less did what I did in LBS, but in a compressed version. So you get to learn things about entrepreneurship, about your SWOT analysis. As a matter of fact, that was the first place I saw a business model canvas. You get to learn about vesting, you get investors to play in your business. You get to you get to basically learn the mistakes that you would otherwise make. And in a 12-week journey, they pair you up with a mentor who has done more or less something what you want to do or who has played in the field. So they had paired me up with a mentor. I had run 3 weeks with the mentor, and the mentor was saying, no, this guy seems to be heavier than what I could manage. So they moved my mentor to someone in the US who at the time I saw him, I knew, yes, he had 5 companies and I knew I couldn't match up. So it was a race to try to catch up, right? So what they tried to do was the Igbo entrepreneurship system of the way of training people, but with technology.
Yeah, 6 years.
I assure you it's detailed, and more than the startup capital they gave, the knowledge in itself was something that was just out of this world. Because by the time I now got into LBS, and I know what I paid to get into LBS, and I started running through, I found, wow, this is just what I learned. So there are even points where I get to in LBS and I go back to 2016, pick my business plan from the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship, pick my research surveys, and I plug them in and I find these things are still very relevant. So both of them did play a solid role. For every entrepreneur, I wish every entrepreneur go through those processes, really go through those processes, because they show you how you fail and they show you how you can succeed, and then they build an iterative process through it for how you can get better as you go. So for me, those two educational points were really key for me.
Brilliant. You know, I'll mention a few things I picked from what you've just said, but what I want to say first is, I know that a lot of technical people have difficulty migrating from technical to entrepreneurship or to business. A lot of technical people know a lot of things, but they know little about how to market it, how to brand it. And I think that these exposures helped you to form that part of your brain. Because like you said, at the beginning, you're not interested in money as much. You're not interested in safety. You're just interested in expressing your creative genius in the area of software development. And that's a lot of people are that way. I mean, for years, they're doing things and other people are even benefiting from what they're doing. That's brilliant. So 4 lessons. Number 1, the ability to put skill first before the quest for money. And then you mentioned your relationship with Owerri, which one of the schoolmates, which is networking, being able to talk to the right people, expose what you know to the right people. Owerri, your Indian CEO. And then another thing you mentioned was this aspect, which is education, getting the right education from the right sources to really harness your skills and make it a viable business. And that's beautiful. But let me ask a question. You mentioned Tony Elumelu Foundation emphasizes the Igbo apprenticeship system in a digital fashion. Is that correct?
Yes, please.
That is awesome. And that is something that people need to hear, because a lot of them despise what has been proven for ages in our traditional systems, instead of really translating them from those traditional systems to modern technology systems. And that is beautiful to hear. Thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit more about your software skills. Now, I knew that you started out with Visual Basic. I don't know what the code base of your of Amoseries, what is it currently?
So Amoseries, we run more on PHP, Laravel,
PHP.
a bit of, but mainly the PHP stack. And one of the reasons I did that was somewhere in my career when I was with the banks, I was a C sharp person, a VB C sharp person. But somewhere along the ranks,
Okay.
I got to realize for a small business trying to grow, I told myself one thing was clear. I didn't want to use pirated softwares, and I couldn't afford
Yeah.
the Visual Studios. I started my entire design on Visual Studios, but I realized that that was because I worked in organizations where they paid for those licenses. And yes, I had those on my laptops. But at the point where I decided, okay, I needed to get laptops for my own people, I wanted to recruit and get laptops for them. I realized that
Yeah.
no, I couldn't. If I didn't at the time, I didn't have the financial muscle. I was just a junior technology
Mm-hmm.
personnel, and I
Yeah.
couldn't afford all of those softwares. So basically, what I had done was to try to switch languages, right? I had switched to
Mm-hmm.
PHP, and I was using my SQL. But by the time I
Mm-hmm.
started
Wow.
getting into the enterprise space, I had to leave my SQL and then switch back to Microsoft SQL Server, where I knew, okay, I needed to
Okay.
get the processor license. If I get a single processor seat license,
Mm-hmm.
I could manage. But for my development, as at the time, it was you could grow your database to a max of 1 gig, then it moved to 4 gig and
Yeah.
then 10 gig.
4 gig. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
XL Server Express. Yeah.
exactly. So as the years went by, they kept on expanding what you could use for Express. So I just kept on using the free version of
Mm-hmm.
Express. And then for any business I wanted to sell to, I would ask you, you have to provide your SQL server. Um, but as
License.
the business
Mm-hmm.
progressed, I decided I wanted to run a cloud version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just needed to buy a license, knowing that I needed to run SQL server on
Mm-hmm.
that server more or less. So basically, I had switched from Visual Studio, C Sharp,
Mm-hmm.
Visual Basic to the PHP side where it was free. The backend database
Yeah.
was free. My SQL, the language was easy to use. You had community support. And I didn't want,
Mm-hmm.
whenever my server ran .NET upgrade, it sorts of breaks things. And I had to start.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, that was why I switched to the PHP side. But for languages, I do either or any of them. So within organizations I manage today, like United Capital, they are still on the C Sharp side. A bit of the internal
Mm-hmm.
workings are PHP, a bit of the internals, but the main solutions are still the C Sharp side. But for my own personal
Okay.
business, I'm on the PHP side.
Wow, brilliant. That's awesome. So basically, I see you do a lot of creativity around how you juggle these technologies and a lot of decision making. You're making decisions around your skill set, around costs, and around basically what is available. Maybe even a learning curve. How long will it take you to, migrate from one platform to another? I think it's brilliant, and it's a lesson to learn for those who are rising up. So tell us more about the Amoseries product. Who did you make it for? Who is using it now? What solutions, what problems does the software solve, etc?
Okay, so like I said, when I started up because a friend had asked me to try to help to find a way to
The
manage his
HRMS
employees.
product.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was my first customer. He wasn't paying at the time. I just felt I should do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But the next thing that happened was 3 years after that, I had sold to, I had basically added more features to it. And then I changed jobs. By the time I was changing jobs, I was coming back to the investment banking space. I remember having an interview. At that time, I had quite a one or two customers, more or less. Of course, Nemeka Obiora became my first customer, and he became a paying customer in the end. He
A
was
paying
paying,
customer. Yeah.
he became a paying customer. And so I had this interview that during my interview process, for some reason, the interview sort of skewed, and we had this argument, myself and the interviewers and the MD, that individuals couldn't get copyrights. And I said, no, individuals could get copyrights. So I actually showed them a copyright for my software, because I had 3 softwares with copyrights at the time. So I showed them a copyright for the software. And one of the things that had happened was 3 months later, those interviewers, 2 of them did come back to me to say they wanted to buy over, and they did offer a good amount. They did offer a good amount. There was only one reason why I had turned them down. At first, I had agreed I was going to sell, but I told them I left a copy of that same software with my former office, right? Because they are deployed,
Okay.
and like I said, they were having a bit of cash problem at the time when we deployed this, so it did bring in some inflow. And they said, okay, no problem. What they will do is they will speak with them and they will retrieve the copy they have, and they can no longer use that copy. So I told them
Okay.
at this point I will have to pull out. So long as that pays people's
Mm-hmm.
salaries, I would rather leave that with them. If there's a way I could sell this to you and you don't touch that, then that works. But if that won't work, then I
Okay.
wouldn't pull out that version. And so they said no, they would have to pull out that version, and I said no, then it means I'll have to leave the deal. One of the things I wanted to do when I started was not really to make money. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Because in between that journey, my wife became a HR person, and she actually kept on requesting for things. She came back from work every day to say there is an unfair distribution of work between the male and female gender. Females could not speak up in the office and all whatnot. So I added the performance appraisal system. I added a bit of reporting where you could report anonymously, where you could report through your line manager. And I kept on bundling
the whistleblower.
Exactly, stuff like that. So I kept on bundling things into the solution. At first, it was to help a friend. Then at some point, it was to help a business. At some point, it was just to help my wife. So I kept on adding features to it that I could decouple at any point in time. So within a 3-4 years period, that was leading up to 2015, I realized I had this solution that I was sitting on that could basically do everything from employee management to recruitment to payrolls to appraisals to leave management. And then I just figured, what exactly is happening? I have this stuff. I'm just one guy who is paying for it. So maybe I need to talk to somebody else. My wife's company wasn't paying for it. She was using it to manage their company, but it was because she was my wife. I needed to give her something. They didn't do something. They just knew she was efficient. They wanted reports. She told them reports and she told them the reports. But she was pulling it out from somewhere. So for me, it became an eye-opener. And I didn't really think of selling it up until I got into the Tony Elumelu Foundation. At the time, I just said I wanted to try to get in. But when I got in and started SWOT analysis, the business model canvas, then I realized, wow, this is something I could actually sell. So I just simply went back home and remodeled my parlor and got some things going, told myself it was time to sell. However, I came up with 2 different models. At the time, I told myself I didn't really want to sell. I just wanted to develop. So I looked for a business that could sell, a technical business, and said, you sell this stuff and you support it. Whatever new features people want, just speak to me. I would add them, but I'm not in the market. I just didn't want to sell. I didn't have those skill sets. I realized at the time, I didn't have the skill set to sell. This technical guy who had the skills and who could develop. So basically, that was what it was. And so coming back to Amoseries, yes, we had a cloud solution at that point that could handle the employee life cycle from interviewing and onboarding all the way to exit and everything in between, from tracking what assets are with the employees, tracking organizational assets, leave management, performance management, payroll, and all whatnot. All of those are bundled in a solution, and organizations, SMEs could come for it and say, I just wanted employee management and leave management. I didn't want payroll. I don't want appraisals. Or I have appraisals every 6 months. Okay, I want appraisal for just this month. And they get the appraisal module activated for just that month. So it was purely modular, and it is purely modular, and you can pay as you go. So basically, that's what we have as a business.
Beautiful. I really like the emphasis you place on ethics and the human side of business, where you know that this other company, they need this software. They can't pay as much as company B, but they need it, and you can't just rip them off. Anybody else could have said, I mean, let me just collect my money and go. But I mean, it backfires in the long term, you know. And I like that. And it's a lesson to learn for a lot of young people who want to break into wealth too quickly. Relationships can be more valuable than that in the long term. So right now, Amoseries is cloud-based. Anybody can plug onto it from anywhere, right? So it can sell in other countries outside Nigeria. Is the case.
So yes, it's cloud-based. So there are 2 ways. There's the cloud-based, there's the on-prem based. Right? So I still have Cloudera running an on-premise base. He has not gone cloud. I have customers running the cloud-based. So as a business, we have those customers who are cloud-based. And yes, the modules can be turned on and off as you go, and you can migrate from on-premise to cloud and from cloud to on-premise. One of the things that we had made sure we did in designing the solution was to create a total segregation in the way that, such that if you decided to move off cloud, within 48 hours, you can be off cloud, fully set up within your location, especially if you are close to us in Lagos. Where you are outside of Lagos, we do a remote deployment to you within 48 hours. You can be fully set up and continue operations as if nothing happened, right? So it's that decoupled that we can move you in and about, in and up and down, and everything just stays fused together still without you losing any more data. So yes, that much you can.
Wow. And your backend, your database is still SQL Server in the cloud, right? Or otherwise?
For now, for now, we run purely on MS SQL. So we moved totally to MS SQL as against MySQL, because MySQL was difficult to manage at some point, trying to scale. And then when you went to quite a number of enterprises, they'll tell you, no, within our enterprise, we'll use Oracle or MS SQL. They were paying so much attention to MySQL. So that happened sometime around 2017 after the Tony Elumelu Foundation, and I started going for slightly bigger businesses. I found that was a bit of a limitation, where you come into an enterprise and you say, we're using MySQL, and they tell you, no, we can't use this. It sort of made your solution look as if it weren't serious enough. So I had to switch to the MS SQL.
Beautiful. So are you on Azure or AWS or what cloud platform?
Okay, so
is that I hope it's
so
not
that's another thing with me. I did Azure for a bit, and then I moved back. I moved back because I wanted to keep the cost of the solution low for SMEs, right? And I realized that the longer I stayed on Azure and the dollar price went up, I had to try to cover cost. So cost was something that was a drag at that point, because the Nigerian economy kept on diving when it comes to the currency. So I had to move back into use a local service provider. At some point, I was using Main One. At some point, I was using a bit of services on CWG, because that was what the office where I worked before was using. So I felt it was better. And then I had better throughput along latency lines. So the latency wasn't as much as pushing traffic outside of the Nigerian gateway. Since I wanted to take Nigeria first, I told myself, okay, let me put my services here and see how fast this thing works. And then also make sure that I pay in local currencies, so that I'm not passing inflationary cost or conversion costs rather to the customers. So basically, all data is hosted here in Nigeria. We have a 99.7% uptime at every point in time, trying to maintain. And sometimes we go way above that. But we are fully hosted here in Nigeria. All data is here with us here in Nigeria.
That is actually brilliant. To be frank, I wasn't too sure that we had local providers of cloud services to that extent.
Oh, we do. We are Rack Center is one of the biggest here in Africa.
Wow. So you actually deploy your solution on infrastructure in their data centers, then you provide it as software as a service to your clients. Is that correct?
Exactly. So you can do that, or the same model Azure has, Main One has, and Main One runs the same solution as Azure, because Main One is purely a Microsoft partner. So they run exactly what Microsoft runs. So it's the same thing in and out. But if you decide you want to even drop a hardware, so when I started, what I did was I actually dropped the hardware for my company then, and then I realized, I could drop something else that was small. So it was a Blade server. We could just drop it in, and then we could configure VMs on that Blade server. You pay for power, you pay for cooling, and then you pay for the data pipe you wanted to use. So at the time I started a 2 MB data pipe. It became too expensive, and I shut down to a 1 MB data pipe, telling myself, customers were not that much. As they came in, I would scale. And so basically, I've been scaling slowly as the customer base comes in. Once again, to keep the cost low as possible on the side. Yeah.
Okay, I see what you mean. So basically, you deploy your own hardware in their data center, right? So it's not like orchestration like you have with the AWS and co. I mean, I think that's great. that works. It works for Nigeria. It really works. I mean, one incidentally is building a data center here in Accra, somewhere called Apollonia, and they want. I believe they are going to do something like that very soon in Accra as well. And I think it's great. Nigeria is a big market, and when people are creative, they can get all these things.
Yeah, it is a big market. I say that there are data centers here that are tier 3. Rack Center is one of the biggest in Africa, and they also host the Internet Exchange for Nigeria. With as at my last check, they had 26 ISPs terminating in Rack Center, including Main One, right?
Wow.
And once again, because of my job role as a group CIO and my time as a head of technology, I've visited quite a number of the data centers. So I've visited Rack Center, the CIO, the group CEO of Rack Center used to be the CIO of Access Bank, Trude Koka, when I supported Access Bank. And he's married to my former MD when I was in SSL. So the IT company I was in 5 years, he's now married to her. So that's a data center I know so well. There is the MTN data center, which I also visited. They too offer as a service, and you can also put in your hardware. So they are looking at both models, because there are organizations that come in as enterprises and just pay for a clear 42U rack and just load up their hardwares within it, put their cameras and monitor all of it, and then they pay for, they pay for as a service also.
For the space.
Yeah, they pay for one as a space, load it up, pay as a service, and they use it as redundancy. So today you can go to one and pay for a complete rack, and then go to Rack Center and pay for a complete rack and use it as a failover. So Nigeria has at least Main One and Rack Center as tier 3. Main One, Rack Center, and MTN are tier 3s. Etisalat has a data center tier 2, and then quite a number of others. But Main One, Rack Center, MTN, those are standard tier 3s within Nigeria today.
And it's interesting to me that despite all the power issues, all the infrastructure issues in Nigeria, it's still more economic to host with these data centers than to go to AWS or Microsoft.
Yeah, because of the exchange rate. The exchange rate is really
particularly the exchange rate. Yeah, wow,
exchange rate
it's amazing. So how do you combine your role as CIO? With United Capital and your work with Amoseries?
I will tell you that is the most difficult part of my working career, because at each point in time I try to switch jobs. Basically, one of the things that happens Amoseries suffers a bit. But one of the things I've done is that I've now gotten people to try to manage so that I'm not running fully. I would say for one thing, I've not touched codes in the last, say, 8 months. Once in a while, I try to look at it. Even here in United Capital, by virtue of my role, I'm not allowed to. If I try that, then the audit team is going to flag me.
Of course,
I don't do that anymore. Once in a while, for my own business, I can sit with the developers and try to play around those codes. But I'll say it doesn't give me as much time. Because with United Capital, it's a group of companies, right? And they are launching new products every day. We just launched a consumer finance. We are looking at launching 2 other new businesses. And so that means I'll basically have 7 CEOs I report to and 1 group CEO. So in most of those cases, I'm between CEOs at every point in time trying to run about. And it doesn't give so much time looking back. But where there is time and where I need to come in, Amoseries runs to some extent on its own. Once in a while, they will need to come in where they have a high-profile customer, and I need to come in to say, okay, let me go run a demo with you, or let me go close out a deal, sign off a deal, or to give just some level of confidence that, okay, there is somebody behind this business that has the pedigree and has the ethos to try to run it. So once in a while, I have to step back, put my head back in, try to run it, and realize that if I put my head too long, then my main job will suffer. And so at that point, it's a balancing act to tell yourself, I'm being paid to do a job. I must do it, and I must do it to the best of my ability, while also trying to keep what I have going, running. So I would say it's difficult juggling both of them. It's difficult enough even juggling 5-6 companies here in United Capital, but it's where there's the will, there's the way. People will figure it out the same way I have.
Brilliant. That's inspiring, and it's inspiring. I'm glad that this role allows you to do that, to have something running by the side. For quite some companies, it's like you're just tied down, and when they decide that your time is up, you you also
Okay, so
you
so that's
also
something I would say. Uniquely, the group chairman of because United Capital as a group of companies is within a subset of another group of companies called the Heirs
yes,
Holdings Group, right? And within the Heirs
yeah,
Holdings
okay,
Group,
that's
there are about 17,
that's
18
Tony
companies.
Elumelu's Heirs Holdings.
So exactly. So
Okay.
Tony Elumelu is the group chairman. So one of the unique things I found when I joined United Capital was when I looked at the employee handbook, it specifically said employees are encouraged to have their own businesses, so long as it doesn't
Wow.
conflict with where they are employed,
Hey,
right?
that
So it
time,
was information
brilliant.
does not conflict. And one of the other things they do is if you do a business, run a business that they need the services, they are willing to support, they are willing to take your services up, so long as once again it doesn't conflict.
Wow.
So it's part of what he does with the Tony Elumelu Foundation. He drives it across all of the companies in the group. So
All the
as against
companies.
most
Wow.
businesses that would say you can't start anything while you work for me, they are more of the fact that start something up if you can, run it. It shouldn't conflict, but try to see how best you can push it. So no,
Balance.
the rules here are not for you to stop everything you are doing. They encourage you rather to say, let's put your hands together, get something, let's grow Africa. And that's the goal of the Tony Elumelu Foundation.
Wow.
To grow Africa.
That's brilliant. That's a real entrepreneur at heart. I mean, it's incredible.
I'm surprising. Even I am still surprised I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I think it's rare. It's rare. It's very, very rare. Okay, so let's come back to the in IT that we are in, we always have disruptions. It's either the disruption of a new technology or disruption of basically the phase out of an old technology. And last year, what we had was a pandemic, and a lot of people lost out in the pandemic. Some people in IT benefited from the pandemic, the likes of Zoom and so on and so forth. And some people failed. Now, in your case, how did it affect you? How did COVID-19 affect Amoseries?
You would notice I raised my hand as one of the people that benefited from it.
Wow, nice.
As in 2016, one of the things I had told people I wanted to do was I wanted to run a service for the HR solution. But more than that, I wanted to run HR moms working from home. That was what I told people.
Wow.
I want HR moms, HR's ladies that say, okay, I'm married, I've started working, but to some extent, I can't cope with the family life and then my career. And I said, okay, so long as you are good, you are certified, you do your stuff well, and you have friends, can you consult for them? And if you can consult for them, then what I can do for you is this. I could sign you up as a partner, and you could go into businesses you consult for and say, okay, I want to consult for you. While I'm consulting for you, one of the things I'm going to come in with is that if you agree to pay my fees as a consultant, I will come in with a free solution, right? And the whole idea around that was we will bundle our solution with your services so you could spend more time at home, but you could still keep an eye on the business. You could still keep an eye on all of the employees in the business. You could keep an eye on employees escalating things to their managers, or employees reporting their managers, or people complaining about things happening in the office. You could keep an eye on, how many leave days do people have? And all of these you could do connected to a cloud solution being in your house, right? You could now, on a weekly basis or a bi-monthly basis, send reports to the CEO to say this is how your business is faring. If they want you to do the recruitment, you could have a pool of candidates that you could recruit for them on. All right, run the interviews, and when it gets to the final selection, you send the candidates in, and that is when you need to go into the business. So you could say you could go into the business, say once in 2 weeks, once in a month. And when I said this, right now, this is back in 2016. When I said this, people said, no, this model wasn't going to work. 2020, everybody
something had to make it work.
2020, people realized, and so and that was one of the good things with LBS. I had this marketing exam I needed to do, and it needed us to do a survey. So I did this survey, and I looked at the survey results in 2016 and in 2020, and they were entirely different. Everybody wanted to work from home. Everybody wanted to work for 2-3 businesses at the same time from home as against one. And I think that shift is beginning to happen. Why people still work for one business in Nigeria from home, they are beginning to realize you might have a bit more time on your hands. Can I work for two businesses? Can I get paid hourly, say 6 hours here and 6 hours there? Because even when you work for one business today, the job doesn't end till 10, 11 at night, right? So
I'm telling you. And you still don't get enough pay.
You still don't get enough pay. The pay is not increasing. In fact, the businesses are telling you, oh, things are not looking as good. So for me, I would say 2020 was an up year for me, for Amoseries, because we got more customers. We had more customers saying, oh, our employees are at home, we can't fill the papers for their leave anymore. We can't print outs for their payroll. So we needed a solution. So yes, we onboarded a few more customers. Even on the asset management side, we onboarded a few more customers. So for me, I would say 2020 was a great year for Amoseries, for United Capital. I think for United Capital, we'll have our AGM coming up next week, or this new week, this on the 24th of March. And we did astoundingly well, 61% above what we had done last year. One of the best in the entire financial services industry.
Wow. Is it that more people are investing or what? Even in this period?
That's what we realized. More people, when people said there was less income because people were losing their jobs, I said there was more money to invest because people weren't spending in clubs. People weren't flying to the Bahamas. Nobody was flying out of Nigeria. Nobody.
I see. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
When we looked at the data, we found people are spending more money on renovating their houses. People are spending more money on their cars, making their cars more comfortable. Because if there was no power in the house, they wanted to sit in their cars, put it on, plug their charger to their cigarette lighter, and then plug their phones and do their Zoom meetings, right? So the whole idea was to work virtually to do their Zoom meetings. So basically took care of their cars a bit more, and then took care of their homes a bit more to create a working space where they could sit and be comfortable to work from. So those are the only things people are spending on. They weren't spending on drinks in clubs, on parties, on trips, on flights. So the whole of those monies needed to get somewhere to go. So people started investing. So we saw investment take an updive. Not so much because of that alone. We also saw that because we were a bit more innovative, because quite a number of investment houses also had a drop. They had a drop. So when we analyzed it, we realized customers were actually shifting towards us as against the entire industry rising because of COVID. We noticed that customers were shifting towards our location because we were automating a bit more.
You had your digital channels, right?
Exactly. Immediately COVID started in 5 days. Yeah. I think that was on my birthday last year, 18th of March. That was 3 days ago from now. 3 days ago, that was when Nigeria got to 5 cases. Because I remember I was in LBS and LBS said Nigeria got to 5 cases, will close down the school. So on the 18th of March, on my birthday, Nigeria got to 5 cases and they closed down the school. I remember a week later, I was in the office and we were just 8 of us in the office out of 150. First step, basically, we got everybody working from home. Till date, people are still working from home. We didn't have anybody here, even in my server rooms. We didn't have anybody for a straight 9 months. Nobody stepped into this building. But what happened was, I got my development team working full throttle. We were adding new features. We were adding features that got the business working. And need I say that when I joined the business, there was nothing but a development team. So I think I was into that when I started. When I said I had a guy who could develop, and we started an SMS platform. So I actually formed the development team after that, as against just the infrastructure. We formed the development team. We now have an e-channels team we are trying to build to say now go to this point. We now need more of people looking at the numbers as those numbers go.
Exactly.
So it's an iterative process. As we go through it, we better the process. We look at it again, we better the process, keep adding to it, be it where I'm working on my own personal business. The same rules apply. It's an iterative process. You just need to keep building and bettering that process. So COVID did both sides for me a great favor. Not to take away that we did lose people globally. That's the sad part. When it comes to business, for us, our businesses went much more higher with the pandemic. That's what I would say.
Beautiful. Wow. That is so deep. I mean, being able to respond to such a situation, a global situation, with something as simple as digitizing channels, be able to continue business in the context of business anyway. And I like the fact that you said as far back as 2016, people were thinking about this. And that's the truth. I think it was the same 2016, maybe 2015, where I attended a conference with, I've forgotten the name of this group. It was just here in Accra. And they were talking about telework. At that time, it was a term that was not too not too old at that time.
Telework
Talking about telework. I mean telecommuting, telework. I mean, and we had to implement it last year. We were forced to implement it, and digital disruption was already coming. COVID simply accelerated it, and it's an incredible example you've given in your case. Thank you for that. So Amoseries, what are the next steps? What's going to happen after now? For Amoseries specifically, and maybe other aspects of your life.
Right now, I think somewhere along the lines, I sort of missed a bit of what my dreams were, because I changed jobs and the jobs became too hectic, and I sort of slowed down on what the actual goal was for me as I started up in 2016. At some point, we started selling, and then we were selling and supporting, which was not what I wanted. I wanted just partners. We still have one of the partners also doing that. So the goal for me now and beyond will be to go back to the original model I planned to some extent. Yes, we might sell. One of the things I realized I tried to do as far back as then was to use a model I copied from Google. Google sells emails and Google for Work to Africa, right?
Yeah.
For $60, $60 per seat. But if you did go through a local provider, you could get it for $50. So basically what Google is saying is, don't come to me directly. I don't want to have it with you because I'm not certain of the latency you have in your country. I'm not certain of the level of infrastructure you have in your country. If you have a local provider, he knows more. He knows more the level of services you have in your country. He knows more the infrastructure challenges you have in your country. He can deal with those things, right?
Yeah.
So it's cheaper for you if you go through your local provider. So that is the same model I wanted to use. Go through one of the tech companies. They can support you more. Because on my own side, I wanted to keep workforce low. I wanted to run a lean business. My development team and a bit of R&D team trying to improve and iterate on these solutions to get to global standard. Why somebody else handles the selling, handles
the support,
and all of those things.
So you almost have like resellers, right?
Exactly. So even if you did go into the solution admin panel, you would see the point for your technical support, your sales support. So you could notice there were two different businesses. Your sales support could be Amoseries in themselves, while your technical support is one of our partners. So we might sell to you and say, okay, you know what, we are shifting you off to a partner. They would support you. What that means is that from your next year renewal, your cost is going to drop because you won't be paying us as much. You'll now be paying through them, which is good. And then the partner gets to make some money, helps the money go around.
And you scale faster without investing too much in your core company. That's beautiful. I think that model makes sense. It makes a lot of sense.
And that's the model I'm trying to go back to now. I'm trying to go back to that model. And so I'm talking to a few HR consultants. One of them has been on my case that I haven't gotten back to. But I'm talking to a few of them, and the whole idea is to go back to that model. A few more of them are more receptive now with COVID to say, if they're not careful and they keep doing things the way they are doing it, they keep consulting for people going into those businesses, they will get disrupted. It's either at some point the technology guys will come in and say, okay, you know what, we're also going to run these consultancy services you run, but we're also going to drop a technology solution. So I'm telling them, one of the things I would want to say to you is, rather than wait to get disrupted, if we could partner, that might just help elevate your business, make your business a whole lot better, especially in the new normal that we are. So that's something I want to go back to. Hopefully this year, worst case next year, I should have gone back to that model fully and be able to run, so I can have more time for what I'm being paid to do here.
Beautiful. I like that. You do have a plan, and I'm really inspired by what you've done, and I think that you have a long way to go, and your impact should continue to spread, inspire more people, build more stuff. Don't slow down. Yeah. So it's been almost an hour. In fact, I think it's been up to an hour, and it's a rich interview, and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk more. But I just wanted to, in this last few minutes, 3 to 3 minutes, say something to young people who are in their 20s, the early 30s, who may want to start out in entrepreneurship or in IT generally? Just give some advice, and then anyone who'll be watching this video.
Okay, so I'll make that simple. I'll only give two, just two. Of these two, one of them I used so well, and I think it helped me. The second, the Tony Elumelu Foundation and LBS actually made me to. And so I would say it so that younger people can do it on their own before they get to my stage. Not everybody will be able to win the Tony Elumelu Foundation or get into LBS. So what I would say is, first of them is, while you get an education, realize that what you want to learn, you can learn on your own. The internet is there, right? So long as you have the will to learn, you will learn. I've never been to a programming school. I've never gone to any school for development. Kenneth here was my coursemate in school. We took a lot of night browsing back then, go to the cyber cafe and then write something on Hello World, on HTML, on Notepad, and trying to play around with it. Yes, education is awesome and it's a must. I would say you must get it. But you must be able to now drive it beyond where the school stops. Where the school stops, you need to be able to drive. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to realize that you should be able to drive way above where the school stops. There's learning in everything. Talk to people and then learn. That's the first I would say. So it means you need to keep the zeal up. You need to be a self-motivator. Motivate yourself. Where you fail, tell yourself, okay, this is not just failing. This is me learning how not to do this stuff. So I've learned the way not to do this. This is the way. Not that I failed. I just learned this is not the way to do this stuff. And let me learn something here. The second is this. And the second is really key for me, because people think I'm a group CIO today. And I have a whole lot of people I mentor, right? A whole lot of them. But people don't realize I also have a mentor. As a matter of fact, I have a mentor who is the same age as me. And that person is my mentor because there's a part of me that I reckon I lack, right? And when I looked at the technical side, I said, okay, I'm good in the technical side to some extent, I can do it. But I lacked the sales side, I lacked the networking side. And so I got a mentor for that. And you can get two mentors, three mentors. You mustn't have one. But you cannot have zero. As a young person, you cannot have zero. Find someone who has done what you want to do, what you dream of doing, and has made all of the mistakes and have gotten it right, so that you don't make the mistakes. The person tells you, oh, you do this, you would make this mistake. I made these mistakes, right? That way you rise faster. And the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship system shows that the Igbo apprenticeship system, people come today and say the Igbos are the best in business in Nigeria today. No doubt. I've had that even said in LBS. And I tell people, it's not because they are the best. It's just because from the point where they are born and their parents are traders, their parents have ingrained in them, oh, now if you see this item, if you want to sell it, this is how these things. Their parents were their first mentors, and they pass this knowledge down from generations to generations. And I tell people, if you go to the Alaba market here, you would find someone who brought people to Lagos and trained them and then let them go, and they had their shops, and they brought people to Lagos and they had their shops, and you would find 4 generations of those.
The hierarchy.
Exactly. What it means is that you have a great-grandfather's mistakes and how he learned through those mistakes that has been passed across 4 generations to make sure that these people don't make the mistakes their fathers made, their forefathers made, all the way up. And this is a system that works, right? That you are able to learn faster, you are able to make the mistake. Today, people say, fail fast, fail forward. I would say the Igbo apprenticeship system says fail fast, fail forward, but don't fail the way the others failed.
That's brilliant.
Failing fast and failing forward, but don't fail the way. Don't go repeating.
Don't repeat the failure.
Exactly. Don't repeat the failure.
Precisely.
So, second thing I would say is this: regardless of who you think you are, how good you are, get you a mentor. As a young person, get somebody. Don't get somebody who is 20 years ahead of you. That's something I always say. Get someone who is 4 years, 5 years ahead of you. If you did get someone who is 20 years, and when I tell people this, they go get a very old mentor, and I say, no, that's not the way. If you're a young guy, don't go get a mentor who has 20 years experience. The reason is simple. The mistakes he made might not be relevant to society today. He made the mistakes when they were using a calculator or an abacus. You are making your mistakes when you are using a computer. computer, right? He made a mistake when it was pure VB. You are in a C# world where things are microservices. So pick someone who is 3 to 5, 6 years ahead of you. So, and that's the context I want people to put it. Someone who has done what you want to do, what you aspire to do, who is much ahead, who is ahead of you, but not so far ahead, so that his mistakes are still relevant in the current day's world, and you can learn from them really fast. So rule number 1, go beyond where education leaves you, push all the way, become a self-motivator. If you fail, tell yourself it's not a failure, it's just one new way of learning how not to do this stuff. Failure is when you give up. If you give up, then you have failed. If you keep moving, a successful person is someone who tried one more time, right? So try one more time, and if you get it right, you get it right. So go above what the education has left for you, but get someone that while you are going above what education has left, is also guiding you to tell you the things education will not tell you. These are the mistakes. These are the quick things. These are the tricks to the trade. This is how fast you can move. And if you did move this fast, you might break down, slow down a bit, and less course correct, and then less iterative to get better. So those are the 2 things I would leave with every young person. If you did these 2 things, you are on your way to the top. Those are the 2 things I would leave.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. Now that's brilliant. So keep learning, go beyond the school in your learning. And in your learning, find a good teacher called a mentor. That's how you keep growing. So thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Amaobi Onyema, the CIO of United Capital Group and the founder of Amoseries software. It's been wonderful talking to you today. Thank you so much. And I myself have learned a lot of things. I have learned a few things. I've learned about the fact that people are actually doing cloud services in Nigeria. Of course, I knew that, but I didn't know to that extent. And I've learned about mentorship. I've learned how to, that there are companies who are still interested in their staff enough to say, look, if you want to start a company, go ahead and do so. So it's been a wonderful time with you. And anybody who's watching this video, if you like what you hear, do share and let other people be blessed by the experience in the life of Mr. Joseph Amaobi Onyema. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.